So here goes with my take on today's Hungarian Grand Prix. Now, at the time that I'm recording this, I've not heard of any decision made yet with regard to whether or not Max Verstappen got a penalty for the collision with Lewis Hamilton. I've come to the FIA webpage. All I can see on their documents at the moment is that summons car 1 incident with car 44. And then when you actually click on that document, you get the download of it, which says 2024 Hungarian Grand Prix, and that Max Verstappen has been summoned for the alleged breach of that article. And a steward, one of the 4 stewards there to determine that, is Gary Connolly. Now, Gary Connolly is corrupt. He is one of the 4 stewards who were one of the 4 stewards who fixed Abu Dhabi, or part of the Abu Dhabi fix. So, to be honest with you, I'm not expecting any penalty to be applied. Hopefully, by the end of me making this video, we will have an answer, and we'll see whether or not I'm right, or whether or not he gets a penalty. Now, one of the things that I find strange about this situation is that frequently in Grand Prix, if there's an incident, you get car under investigation, and then you get decision made. Okay, if it's within the last couple of laps, then the decision is sometimes delayed until after the event. But normally, you get car under investigation, and then a decision made, and a penalty is applied. When that car involved is Max Verstappen, or even sometimes the other Red Bull, the stewards will decide on that after the race. The stewards will invite Red Bull into an appeal for Red Bull to present their case. Well, that doesn't appear to be happening during the races, where the FIA just look at the information, they look at the evidence, and then they make their decision and hand out a penalty. But no, when it involves Max Verstappen, we'll have a think about that, and we'll ask Red Bull what they think and whether Red Bull will allow us to give them a penalty. That's very much how it seems. Anyway, we will see. Brief kind of summary of the race. So the race starts. Oscar Piastri gets a great start and gets the jump on Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton gets a great start too. Doesn't he start 5th and gets the jump on the Ferrari? Actually passes Norris as well, and is kind of impeded by Verstappen, who has gone off at turn 1. So Verstappen goes off the track, gains places in effect by leaving the track, comes back on, impedes Hamilton, and that kind of Hamilton having to kind of slow himself down a bit enables Norris to fight back and retake Hamilton. So this is the kind of impact that drivers have on each other's races, and yet there's no penalty. You know, we saw the debate then go on for the first few laps as to whether or not Verstappen needed to give that place back or not, whether or not it's a first lap, first turn incident. We can go back to Austria last week, where Hamilton did a similar thing, and Mercedes said to Hamilton, give the place back. Again, Hamilton had passed Russell. Russell fights hard against Hamilton because that's what Russell does. It's as though with Russell, the hardest he ever tries in any Grand Prix is to pass Hamilton. That's his sole focus. As long as he beats Hamilton, it's a fantastic weekend for Russell. Okay, so you could see last weekend, or last race, sorry, I think it was a fortnight ago, in Austria, Russell was like fighting like hell to repass Hamilton, and then Hamilton gave the place back to the Ferrari, I believe it was, for that going off track. But they made that decision. They didn't wait for the FIA to have to make a decision. They chose to do that. Red Bull seemed to be hanging on for a bit until eventually they, again, look at what the commentators were ultimately saying. It took 5 laps until we got a replay of that first lap incident. Now, normally when you're watching a Grand Prix, you get a replay of that start within a lap or 2. We didn't get a replay of the start for about 5 laps. when anything controversial happens involving a Red Bull car, involving Max Verstappen, you don't get the replays straight away. The commentators are going, well, it might be okay, it might be okay, it might be okay. And then eventually, actually, we can't justify that. We can't justify that. Oh, yeah, I guess Max is going to have to give the place back. The bias is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. But again, Hamilton got slightly impacted, enabling Norris to get by. How long he'd have held him off, who knows? Okay, ultimately then McLarens looked the faster cars. Do I think that Mercedes of Hamilton's could have won that race? No, don't think it could have. Certainly the stints on them tyres, again, did they pit him too early? Did they not let him run long enough on that first stint on the mediums? Again, it's difficult to say. It certainly didn't appear that way. Ultimately, he came home with a third position, so I suppose we should be grateful for that. But the McLarens look the fastest cars, and the Red Bull certainly looked faster than the Mercedes as well. That first kind of lap incident as well, whereby Verstappen came back onto track and caused Lewis Hamilton to slow slightly, reminded me somewhat of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix of 2021, where we had that start. Verstappen left the track, came back on at that first chicane in an unsafe manner, making Hamilton have to deviate, and Ocon got through. And then we had a big crash and a red flag, and that's when we had the Red Bull team negotiating with Massey as to where they'd allow Max to start on the provision that Hamilton was not on pole and all that. Where was the penalty for re-entering the track in an unsafe manner, affecting the other driver? Now, it wasn't as bad as that today. It wasn't as bad as that. But these sorts of things, some drivers get punished for them, others don't. It's always the same driver that doesn't. So we had that. And then we got the audio. So I'm going to go to the audio now and find out the first clip of it's entitlement. It's total entitlement. What we see in Max Verstappen is absolute entitlement. He can do whatever he wants. He never does anything wrong. He's the victim. And it's just disgusting. And what you see people with exactly that same mindset as his followers. These young kids, right, that are entitled brats, that take no responsibility for their own actions and have got no respect for anybody else. Well, they love Max Verstappen. You know, he's their hero. They replicate his values. And this is what this sport is putting up as this face of the sport. That is the kind of behaviour that this sport is endorsing by lauding this guy as being some great. And he really isn't. I mean, we saw today that, well, he's still got an extremely quick car. We've got eyes. We can see what is going on. You can visually see just how quick that Red Bull is and how well it actually handles. The guy's still moaning that there's a problem. He's moaning like mad that there's a problem. Well, we can see how quick that car is. Do you not think the other drivers having issues with their cars? Do you not think the other drivers in the race would like their car to be performing a little bit better, being able to handle a bit better? But no, they're managing the situation. Okay, they're doing the best that they can do with what they've got. But oh no, Max is the victim here. Max is having the problem that he's got probably the second fastest car on the grid at the moment, which is mysterious. And yet everything's against Max. And it's not his fault. It's not Max's fault. Everybody else's fault that it's also bad for Max. But then he's complaining, pretending that, you know, it's the worst car ever. But again, this is the mindsets of people, and this is the example that's being set and the damage that's being done. Okay, decent people are brought up with values whereby you have respect for others, you treat each other correctly, and you're not entitled. You've not got that kind of narcissistic attitude where only you matter and stuff everybody else. But that's who Max Verstappen is. Max doesn't give a stuff about anybody else. So you that might be Max Verstappen fans, Max really doesn't give a stuff about you. You know, pretend that he might, but he doesn't. Max Verstappen cares about one thing and one thing only, and that is Max Verstappen. That's all he cares about. And we in this world are encouraged almost to replicate some of those values on the grounds that if people behave like that, if there's no collective, if there's no community, it's a notion of divide and conquer, isn't it? And if everybody's just out for themselves and there is no collective, there's no society, there's no shared value, then it is easier to divide and conquer, and trying to push people to live their best life, and all that matters is as long as you're doing all right, it's fine to treat everybody else like dirt. It's fine for you to achieve your desires at the expense of everybody else, stuff everybody else, as long as you get what you want. You know, that's if they want to try and push society to hold to them values, then that's where we're going to go, unfortunately, and that's what we need to fight against. And I know that people tune into this channel to want to hear solely about Formula One, but the issues are far greater than just Formula One. There's a lot deeper societal ramifications that kids watching the show are being influenced by. And to think that this is not an underlying dynamic is naive. Anyway, let's get into some of these recordings.
Result of giving that place back, the stewards have decided no further action for Max Verstappen.
Okay, so you can just drive people off the track then. Then you can tell the FIA that's something we're going to make from now onwards. Just driving people off the road.
Well, that's Max Verstappen's view, and he sounds a bit het up and very tetchy and a little bit angry at what has happened there. But as Ant said, Martin, he hasn't seen what was happening on the inside, and maybe, on reflection, he might change his mind once he does see that. What he has got now is DRS to try and close in on Lando Norris down the main straight.
He did avoid his teammate.
Not much of a braking zone into two, and Max has gone a little bit deep into the corner, to say the least.
He's driving in a very aggressive fashion there, and that's not a criticism, that's by going deep into that. He is desperate to try and get past Lando Norris and using an aggressive style to try and do that. Not unfair, just aggressive. Right, here's the start. Norris tries to cut off his teammate, gets a great getaway, but then Piastri is there and he has to back out.
And then Verstappen's got the ideal, the optimum racing line down the outside and tries to take it around there. I mean, there's no way that Norris was able to, was turning into him. I wondered if there was also an argument whether Hamilton had been disadvantaged by that, but I don't believe he did. He was.
Yeah, he did well, Lewis, to back out before any contact was made.
Enormously then, as because Max and Lewis got together towards the outside of turn 2, it at least allowed Norris to be behind him on the racetrack. Otherwise he'd have had to let Hamilton through as well. The big teams might leave on the table.
Perez, of course, the only man to be last at the end of the first lap and go on to win a Grand Prix, the Sakir Grand Prix back in 2020.
So, yeah, as I said though, is Lewis, his head says he's good at spending his tyre budget, but let's see. He's really taken a lot of energy out of those hard compound tyres in the first few laps, but give him a couple of laps at this pace and he'll be within the DRS 1 second range of Lando Norris, who definitely is struggling for a bit of absolute raw pace, is Norris, compared to Piastri.
Yep, the 123.
Without doubt, Piastri had another slow lap previous time around. Whether he got his tyre dirty, had his lap deleted for track limits at turn turn 11 did Piastri. So here we go. Lewis covers him off, turns into the apex. As soon as he put any steering lock in, he locked his inside front wheel. That so often happened. Verstappen will have DRS. He's going to sail down the outside on the optimum racing line, but he carries too much speed into the corner. Really dirty out there. And Lewis Hamilton lives for another day in third place.
Meanwhile, and while I say that,
A -5 brake pace, and the thing just doesn't turn. It's unbelievable.
Verstappen is clearly having an issue with the way his car is handling and the way this race is evolving today. He's already had to give one place back right at the start, which he didn't enjoy, and we've had several reports on the radio and feedback about just what he doesn't like about this car. Still being that close, can't quite get the room to make a move into turn 4.
Max will be on the phone saying 2 moves to defend up into turn 4, but Lewis is having to have 5 stabs at getting around a corner sometimes.
Do you think there were 2 moves into turn 4?
Well, we'll have to see it again from the head-on angle, but Lewis was definitely making his car very wide.
Fernando Oh, it's fabulous. And you've got
Mode 9. Or press and hold the overtaking.
Why? Why mode 9?
And then press and hold the overtake, Max, if you're in mode 7. Thank you.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. He sounds like a man who could have done better with a better night's sleep last night, Max Verstappen. He's just sounding tetchy and irritable every time we hear him on the radio. But he is in a fight, and that might be having something to do with it, as well as this time Hamilton does pit. Working temperature.
It's quite impressive how we let ourselves get undercut and just completely race.
Well, if it's not the car, it's the strategy for Max Verstappen today. Everything not going his way, according to him. But he had the ability to get past Hamilton and to make that move, but went too deep into turn 2. Does he need, though, Martin, a bigger offset on his tyres next time around?
Probably.
Allow themselves to get undercut by Lewis Hamilton, but I think the case is, the real point is that Max does not have a car that he's comfortable with. It's got loads of understeer. Max hates that, and if the car wasn't like that, then Max probably would have been able to get past Hamilton despite being undercut.
And I think, Martin, as well, one extra thing that
understeer. Max hates that, and if the car wasn't like that, then Max probably would have been able to get past Hamilton despite being undercut.
And I think, Martin, one extra thing that could be irking Max Verstappen here is the realisation that if he delays his pit stop much longer, Charles Leclerc is going to be ahead of him when he comes out. Leclerc will be on the same medium tyres that Verstappen will likely go on to. So it's not just Hamilton he's going to try and get past, it'll be Leclerc first.
Yeah.
Hamilton,
Restop too short, that first in, mate. Okay, copy.
who thinks that he's been asked to do a little bit too much on these tyres towards the end of this race. He's come back out in 5th place. Doesn't like this strategy, isn't happy with what he's being asked to do, but he's closed down gaps in down gaps in the past, and he's got now on lap 50 20 or so laps to get himself back into the podium standings. It's possible.
It is. We've got a 5-horse race. They've sort of dropped sights a little bit. Perez is now doing fastest lap of the Grand Prix by a country mile.
Happened 3 laps on the medium.
Well, that's some gentle introduction.
No, mate, don't give me that. Now. You guys give me the strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left.
Nah. So he's been told to go out and not take too much out of the tyres, and he's obviously
Sound too critical, but Max Verstappen is sounding like a man who stayed up late last night doing a sim race, which he did, and then got up early this morning to do a sim race, which he did, rather than getting a good night's sleep in Budapest, which, by the sounds of it, he could probably have done with. 2.2 seconds. George Russell has stopped again.
Piastri just lost another 0.8 of a second, lapping Hulkenberg.
Yeah, tell him to catch up then, please.
Would Max Verstappen move over? Would Lewis Hamilton move over? Would Fernando Alonso move over? move over. I just mentioned because they are the move over. I just mentioned because they are the three greats, as it were, in this race. They're the ones with the experience, the race-winning experience. Is this where Lando Norris is coming of age and saying, no, I'm your number one here. On here, I'm the one that's chasing down Max in the championship. You need to give me this victory because it's your best chance of doing something about Max's lead.
Yeah, and when Sebastian Vettel ignored all of this, the team seemed to love him a little bit more back in the day when he was winning 4 straight world championships. Lit the rear tyres up as well. He's very wide, it's dirty out there, and Lewis once again pushing the limits of the driving standard there by running very wide through turn 2. Lit the rear tyres up as well. He's very wide, it's dirty out there, and Lewis once again pushing the limits of the driving standard there by running very wide through turn 2.
leave the cars hit?
I think you were behind at the apex, Max.
Yeah,
Okay, whatever.
it's about where your front axle is. When you're going around the outside, your front axle has to be at least level with or ahead of the other driver's mirror, is what the regulations say.
Here we go again then, and you can go again then, and you can see Verstappen closing, under braking, he's going to force his way and hits Lewis Hamilton, who braked, watched Verstappen come steaming down the inside and watched Verstappen take himself out of that battle. He's been passed by Charles Leclerc as well.
Wow, now we're going to hear a grumpy Max Verstappen, but I think he had to just keep the steering wheel straight. Keep slowing the car down. He came in with such speed there.
Verstappen take himself out of that battle.
And
Now he's been passed by Charles Leclerc as well.
Wow, now we're going to hear a grumpy Max Verstappen, but I think he had to just keep the steering wheel straight to keep slowing the car down. He came in with such speed there. We'll look forward to a replay of that, and Sainz is not far behind him either now. Max Verstappen, he hit the ground so hard that would have not...
Lando, he can't catch you up. You've proved your point, and it really doesn't matter.
He's on much bigger tires. Manchester, he's still it.
Lando Norris is not...
I mean, I would have tried to undercut anyway. If I didn't, I would have gone long.
Mate, we did the stop sequence in this order for the good of the team. Every
Yeah, I'm
joint
fighting for
occasion we
some
had.
kids, but...
Okay,
No,
I'm trying to protect you, mate. I promise, I'm trying to protect you.
This is turning and could have been Verstappen injured, because that went a long way up into the air.
Yeah.
Because that went a long way up into the air.
Yeah. If that's anybody's fault, that's Max's fault. So there's no recriminations there, because he didn't. There because he didn't.
Move the steering, mate. Copy, mate. So that was Verstappen. He arrived out of control to that one.
I think there's a penalty coming Max Verstappen's way for causing a collision there. It's been
Right.
I think there's a penalty coming Max Verstappen's way for causing a collision there. It's been noted, Martin, but I don't see how that isn't causing a collision.
Yeah, moved under braking.
I'm not even going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. We'll let the stewards do their thing. It's childish. On the radio, childish.
I think there are some words coming behind closed doors at McLaren and at Red Bull for two of their drivers.
pot and kettle springs to mind. So, yeah, he lost control of his car, so that's as clear. Yeah, he lost control of his car, so that's as clear as now. Whether the stewards put that down to a racing incident or penalty for Verstappen. If he does get a penalty, that'll move him back to P6. It'll be 6 and 7 for a Red Bull at that time.
Lose ground in the championship for the first time this season. He's currently in 5th place. But is Lando Norris taking home 25 points or 18 points? Remember when Lewis Hamilton let Valtteri Bottas through here in Budapest on the very last corner? Might that be something Lando Norris is thinking about after he's proved his point and then done what the team have requested him to do? To do. It would be a very plausible strategy.
It's going to have to be a big lift now on the last lap, though, isn't it? 5.8 seconds his lead.
Yeah. Science. Now, the challenger to Max Verstappen, who has just driven and sounded irritable and annoyed and furious and just irked throughout this entire race, ever since he was asked to give the place back to Lando Norris from the start. at the Verstappen Hamilton incident and Verstappen for causing a collision after this race. But you and behind them, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, who will go and see the stewards and answer the charges of causing a collision. Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Yuki Tsunoda.
What is really hurting for Lando is he could have won Silverstone, he could have won Austria, could have won Barcelona, could have won here.
Last time we had as many winners in a season as we've had this year was 2012. Oscar Piastri, the 7th different Grand Prix winner in this 2024 season.
Welcome back. Max was not a happy camper today. All started with the strategy. He was particularly grumpy with GP over the radio, and it culminated in that, which is with the stewards in 10 minutes' time. Let's hear some team radio.
this car brake wise, and the thing just doesn't turn. It's unbelievable.
Mode 9. Or press and hold the overtake.
Why? Why mode 9?
And then press and hold the overtake, Max. If you're in mode 7, thank you.
It's quite impressive how we let ourselves get undercut and just completely race.
Well, that's some gentle introduction.
No, mate, don't give me that now. You guys give me the strategy, okay? I'm trying to rescue what's left. Should you leave the car sit?
I think you were behind at the apex, Max.
Okay, whatever then. Yeah, moved under braking.
I'm not even going to get into a radio fight with the other teams, Max. We'll let the stewards do their thing. It's childish on the radio. Childish.
Max, hi. It's easy for us on the outside to assume from hearing your radio messages today that you were angry. Can you just tell us how frustrated you were in the car today?
Yeah, of course not happy. I mean, on a day where, of course, we are already lacking pace compared to McLaren, you try and, of course, hope that, we do the right things with the strategy, which today was not the case. The first one, to be undercut, it was not ideal, but maybe, you get caught out, okay. Then, we tried to go a bit longer, but my pace was not very good. So then, on the hard tires, of course, I tried to close up, but I got stuck again, quite a long time behind Lewis, and I lost a lot of seconds because I thought actually that middle stint we were decent. Not fantastic, but I thought we had quite decent pace on that hard compound. But basically we couldn't use it because I just got stuck. Then again they leave me out. I basically immediately got into traffic with back markers, and on a day where the car is already not the quickest, you need to try and capitalize. Now hot for the tires as well. As soon as you get behind cars, they overheat within 2 laps. You can't rely on a little pace advantage. Maybe last year, yeah, with the car, being quite a lot faster than everyone else. But I think in the position that we are in now, we can't do that anymore. And I think that's why today was a tough race for us. And naturally, of course, that frustrates me because I want things to be done better. Because, of course, I'm realistic. Today we couldn't have beaten the McLarens, but a P3 I think was on the cards if we would have just would have been on it a bit more. Yeah.
I know you've got to go and see the stewards. Did any of the frustrations spill over into that contact with Lewis?
I don't think so. I mean, I went for a move that was fully on, but then in the middle of the braking zone, when I'm already committed, of course, to the move, he suddenly just keeps warping right. And if I wouldn't have turned while braking straight, I would have made contact with him. So at one point, naturally I lock up because he just keeps on turning to the right. the move, he suddenly just keeps warping right, and if I wouldn't have while braking straight, I would have made contact with him. So at one point, yeah, naturally I lock up because he just keeps on turning to the right. Turning to the right. People always made a lot about what happened in Austria. Was not correct, blah blah blah. But that's on the initial move. And then you just brake straight. You hold your wheel quite straight. And I felt like now it was not on the initial. During the braking zone, he keeps turning right. You cannot do that when someone is committed to the inside. That's why I locked up, because otherwise we would have collided anyway, because he would have just turned in on me. I mean, at the end of the day, of course, if we would have done a better strategy, you're not in that position. I don't think that was wrong. I went for a move that was fully on. I don't think I braked too late, but yeah, we got together. We'll have a look. Look at the Stewards, is what it is.
I know you debrief anyway, but will you need to debrief and perhaps apologise to the team? Do you feel you have anything to apologise for? Just from some of the radio we heard today. We heard GP saying, you know, let's not have these arguments over the radio, these discussions over the radio and things. We had some different messages, I guess, between you and the team today, or different atmosphere perhaps.
I don't think we need to apologise, we just need to do a better job. do a better job. I don't know why people think that you cannot be vocal on a radio. I mean, this is a sport, you know. And yeah, if some people don't like that, then stay home.
It seemed like, yeah, his frustration.
But I'm assuming here that maybe Max hasn't seen it yet on the TV. Otherwise, someone needs to tell him that there was actually a corner, that which is why Lewis was turning in. Yeah. I mean, Lewis was taking the corner. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he's going to get a penalty on that 5 or 10 seconds and drop behind Sainz. Naomi, you agree 100%?
Yeah, no, I'm actually just thinking about what Max said there about staying home. I think that's quite, I don't know if he's referring to the team members who don't like that or the fans, but I find that quite a disrespectful message. I mean, he's got to remember that there's no I in team, and whilst he is their top driver and they always put him forwards, he's got to remember that there's loads of people working behind him to put these results together. And on a day like today, sometimes you need to keep the team on your side, and if you talk to people like that and say things like that, you get them offside. And I'm pretty sure we know that GP's been getting a lot of incoming from Max in the past, and they've always said that that's the relationship they have, and it's fine. But there might be other people who are on that radio who are also listening, who are part of this team, who don't like being spoken to like that. So I don't think it's cool. I mean, I know as a driver, when you've got your helmet on, it's a heated environment. Football players don't have microphones on their shirts, and I'm sure if we would hear them and every one of their thoughts, we'd hear a lot of colorful words. But in this sport, you do have a radio mic that's going out to the whole world, all your fans, including kids.
I suppose. when your race engineer calls it childish, maybe you do have a little debate afterwards about what might happen. I wonder what it tells you, though, about the state of the championship and what Red Bull are thinking now, because to me, and Nico, you tell me if you agree.
And come back in a week's time.
And then the lunge down and being flipped up with Lewis, how did you see that one? It was, I mean, he was never going to make the corner, was he, Max, really?
Yeah, look, I would say a racing incident, to be honest with you. I mean, I'd be disappointed if anything were to come of that.
Okay, how are you going to be in the debrief? It was quite fruity on the radio with GP, wasn't it? But I know they're just like brothers. But yeah, is Max going to need a bit of calming down?
Well, look, you know, unfortunately, frustration of the driver plays out over the radio. I think you probably heard that. I didn't hear McLaren's radio, but I guess there was a fair amount more going on that one. But you know, congratulations to Oscar Piastri today. You know, he deserved the win.
Yes, nobody mentioned Multi-21 today. That was what was going on, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lando was giving it a go. Lando was trying to show that he was like Seb. He was not going to give way.
It's an awkward position. I didn't understand why they didn't give Oscar the first pit stop. So they put themselves into that position. But obviously it was something that they discussed pre-race, and Lando did what was asked of him.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Thanks very much. See you next time.
Back to the incident, actually, go to the Skypad. Ant is there to give us his take on it.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Really interesting to hear that interview from Max Verstappen. We're going to go straight into the onboard here. Now, yes, I was on Max's case in Austria about the moving under the braking and then ultimately the cause of collision, moving to the left-hand side after moving right. You all know the story, into turn 3 and causing the collision. So, two things. We've got to look at why the lockup happened and who was at fault for the collision. That's for the collision. That's what the stewards, I'm sure, will be looking at. So as you head down the straight, he's behind Lewis, and they both overtake the Williams. Lewis ducks back towards the racing line, which you would expect. And then I think Lewis takes a slightly shallow approach to the corner. I do think there's a slightly early turn in which catches Max out slightly. He's going for the gap here, thinking it's going to be straight, and Lewis goes in. At some point, you have to turn into the corner. That's this grey area that all these drivers play around with. Max was doing play around with. Max was doing it in Austria. Lewis is doing it here. You're making it uncomfortable. For the driver trying to overtake you, and now you've pushed them. They're going onto the marbles. It's very hard to slow down at this point. What happens after this, though? Because sure, you've still got loads of room. There's plenty, way more than the car's width to your right-hand side, so you can still go down the inside. But you're carrying such speed now that you're gonna probably lock up, and that's exactly what happens. And it's not just one lock-up, it's both front wheels that lock up. That makes the car go straight, and because the car goes straight, that's the cause of collision. And we've got a much better shot of it. I think we might have already seen this overhead. I've already seen this overhead shot. This one tells, I think, a better story. So Lewis goes to turn in, but then when it locks up for Max, it's almost as if the car goes left. It doesn't. It's an optical illusion. It's when you get a double front lockup, you have no steering, lo and behold. So therefore, that's what ultimately caught Lewis out. That's why he didn't turn out the corner, because you're not expecting the car on the inside to suddenly just go absolutely dead straight like it did there. And when you see the amount of lockup and how far the car was about to go wide, you have to say the main cause of collision, it was a racing incident, I think, but the main cause of collision was because of Max, but he was a little bit compromised going into the corner. So it'd be really what the stewards think of this one. It's that grey area, like I say, whether it's a jink to the to your opponent when they move out to overtake you, they move out and then you counteract. That's quite different to a subtle turn in, but it is in the braking zone. But so is the entry to the corner on the braking zone, of course. So I'm fascinated to see how the steward's going to that you're going to probably lock up. And that's exactly what happens. And it's not just one lock up, it's both front wheels that lock up. That makes the car go straight, and Lewis goes in. At some point, you have to turn into the corner. That's this grey area that all these drivers play around with. Max was doing it in Austria. Lewis is doing it here. You're making it uncomfortable for the driver trying to overtake you. And now you've pushed them. They're going onto the marbles. It's very hard to slow down at this point. What happens after this, though, because sure, you've still got loads of room. There's plenty, way more than the car's width to your right-hand side. So you can still go down the inside, but you're carrying such speed now that you're gonna probably lock up. And that's exactly what happens. And it's not just one lock up, it's both front wheels that lock up. Approach to the corner. I do think there's a slightly early turn in which catches Max out slightly. He's early turn in which catches Max out slightly. He's going for the gap here thinking it's going to be straight, and Lewis goes in. At some point you have to turn into the corner. That's this grey area that all these drivers play around with. Max was doing it in Austria. Lewis is doing it here. You're making it uncomfortable for the driver trying to overtake you. And now you've pushed
to see you smiling. Congratulations on the podium today. I have to start with something Max has just said, because he blames you for the contact and says that you moved across, and I know that he's got to go and see the stewards, so I'd just like to get your take on it first.
I mean, for me, I think it was a race incident. I think ultimately he was much quicker and he sent it. I moved a little bit to defend, but I left enough space on the inside and he locked up and obviously then couldn't turn. So he came at a different trajectory and clipped my wheel. So if he was under control, he would have gone by.
My second question, though, is how much fun was that today to be battling out there, to be on the podium, to be ahead of a Ferrari, to be ahead of a Red Bull at this point in the season where we still have plenty of races to go for you to really build on this?
Yeah, it's so much fun. I mean, the year started out, we were struggling to finish in the top 10, you know, so for us to be moving forwards, to be in the mix is really, it feels great. Ultimately, don't have the pace of the McLarens or the Red Bulls, but we're there and we're progressing, and we just got to keep on improving. But really proud of everyone back at the factory for continuing to push. We do need to bring more, and I hope at some stage we can actually have the sheer pace of the guys ahead. And if we do, then George and I think will be able to really stick it to them.
Has just said, because he blames you for the contact and says that you moved across, and I know that he's got to go and see the stewards, so I'd just like to get your take on it first.
I mean, for me, I think it was a racing incident. I think ultimately